In our headlines on this Monday, October 21st, here in South Korea. Rampant reports of North Korean troop involvement in Russia's war against Ukraine has the latter's President Volodymyr Zelensky raising alarm about the broader international implications of the scenario. Meanwhile, over in the Middle East, Israel's military offensive against Hamas in Gaza continues despite the recent assassination of Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the appalling October 7th assault. And on the baseball ground, a much-anticipated game on this Monday evening with the top teams from the regular season playing each other to win the championship title in the Korean Series. We start with strong denunciation from the Defense Ministry here in South Korea amid rampant reports of North Korean troop involvement in Russia's war against Ukraine. Our correspondent Peunji starts us off.
A long line of soldiers are waiting to receive their uniforms and equipment while speaking in Korean. The Ukrainian Center for Strategic Communication and Information Security released the video on its social media channels on Saturday, saying the footage shows North Korean troops gearing up at a training ground in Russia's Far East. The center also released a questionnaire that appears to have been prepared by Russia for North Korean soldiers to provide measurements for military uniforms, including hats and shoes. This comes after South Korea's intelligence agency on Friday confirmed that North Korea had deployed around 1,500 Special Forces troops to Russia. Over the weekend, the National Intelligence Service even revealed 3 pictures, including a black and white satellite image depicting a Russian vessel departing from the North Korean port of Cheongjin, which is believed to be carrying North Korean soldiers. As more and more evidence supports North Korea's military deployment to Russia, South Korea's Defense Ministry on Monday strongly criticized the North. It called on the regime to immediately cease its actions, saying that the military will take necessary measures to protect the safety of Korean citizens.
North Korea's participation in Russia's war of aggression is a violation of United Nations resolutions and an illegal act that deserves condemnation from the international community. It's an act that seriously threatens our national security and the safety of our people.
When asked if South Korea plans to supply lethal weapons to Ukraine, the ministry spokesperson refrained from providing a direct answer, but said the government is open to all possibilities and that they'll review necessary measures while closely monitoring the situation. Also on Monday, South Korea's foreign ministry called in the Russian ambassador to Seoul to protest against Moscow's military cooperation with Pyongyang. Seoul's first vice foreign minister Kim Yoon warned Russia's top envoy that South Korea will sternly respond by using all available means through cooperation with the international community. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that greater North Korean involvement would be detrimental to everyone should its troops become trained for modern warfare. In a video address on Sunday, he called for the international community to take a tougher stance against the North, amid continued speculation that it will become more involved in Russia's war against Ukraine. Peunji, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, North Korea's allegations of South Korean drone incursions have been brushed aside by authorities and pundits here, amid indications that the incident itself may have been staged by the regime. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
Regarding North Korea's accusations of Seoul using drones to drop anti-regime propaganda on Pyongyang, the South Korean government and military have reportedly concluded internally that no drones crossed into the north. According to sources, the administration and military tracked and analyzed flight paths on the days that the regime claimed the South intruded in its airspace, namely the 3rd, 9th, and 10th of this month. No military or commercial drones were confirmed to have crossed the border, hinting at the high possibility that North Korea staged the incidents. One government source said there was no reason for Seoul to provoke Pyongyang with drones, especially considering the risks of violating the armistice agreement. This comes after North Korea claimed on Saturday that it had discovered the remains of at least one drone sent from South Korea, saying it was the same type displayed on Armed Forces Day, a small long-range reconnaissance drone in Seoul earlier this month. An expert noted that North Korea's claims were baseless and unreasonable just by considering whether it was technically possible for that type of drone to operate as the regime claims.
Technically, the drone's flight range is enough to travel to and from Pyongyang, but the purpose of the drone itself is to film, equipped with detection sensors. There isn't enough internal space to store leaflets, and even if that's possible, the flight range will be significantly reduced.
While sharing the same view that this type of drone cannot fly to and from Pyongyang with leaflets as its payload is only hundreds of grams, lawmaker Yoo Young-won from the ruling PPP said the unmanned aerial vehicle unveiled by North Korea was likely a replica manufactured by the regime itself. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, meanwhile, maintained its ambiguous stance, saying there was nothing to confirm.
There is nothing to verify regarding the claim that any unmanned aerial vehicle from our territory crossed into North Korea. North Korea's unilateral claims are not worth verifying, nor are they worth responding to.
Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, Israel's military campaign against the Palestinian militant group Hamas appears little affected by its recent assassination of the group's mastermind as it continues to ramp up its raids. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
The Israeli military is continuing its offensives in Gaza despite the death of Hamas's leader Yahya Sinwar. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, at least 87 people were killed by an Israeli airstrike in northern Gaza on Sunday. The ministry said 40 civilians were among the dead. However, the Israeli military says while it's confirming the exact number of casualties, its initial investigation shows that Hamas has exaggerated the figures. It added that the military is trying to avoid causing harm to civilians. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Gallant announced on Sunday that Israeli attacks targeting pro-Iranian militant group Hezbollah in southern Lebanon are intensifying. He added that the IDF has been successful so far in not only defeating its enemy, but also destroying areas that Hezbollah had tried to use to launch airstrikes against Israel. Over the weekend, a drone was launched toward the residence of Israel's leader Benjamin Netanyahu in what he described as an assassination attempt. According to Netanyahu, the assassination attempt on him and his wife by Hezbollah was a grave mistake, and he vowed to continue fighting. The Israeli Prime Minister also spoke with former President Donald Trump on Saturday, where he emphasized that while Israel takes into account the issues Washington raises, it will be his country that will ultimately make the decisions based on its national interests. Thousands of protesters also took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday, calling on the Israeli leader to sign a ceasefire deal that would lead to the release of the Israeli hostages. Relatives of hostages also took part in the protest, saying negotiations were long overdue. It's believed that 101 Israeli hostages are still being held captive by Hamas since the October 7, 2023 attack that sparked the current war in the region. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
We are now counting down about a fortnight to the U.S. presidential election, which takes place on November 5th. That being said, our Yoon covers the campaign trails of the candidates as well as their latest poll standings.
With the 2024 U.S. presidential election fast approaching, both candidates, Democrat Kamala Harris and her Republican rival Donald Trump, remain locked in a tight race. According to a new Reuters Ipsos poll, Harris holds a marginal 3 percentage point lead over Trump, 45% to 42% among registered voters. Scrambling for votes, the two candidates have been focusing their campaigns in the 7 competitive swing states. Over the weekend, Harris campaigned to early voters in Georgia, with polls showing a lack of enthusiasm for her candidacy among black men who have been a reliable voting bloc for Democrats. Harris highlighted that they were not different from any other demographic, and their votes would have to be earned. In order for Harris to repeat Joe Biden's 2020 wins in Michigan and Georgia, she will need to win the non-white cities of Detroit and Atlanta, as well as their surrounding suburbs. Analysis of the Reuters Ipsos poll shows that Harris has overtaken any advantage that Trump had held among middle-income households and suburbanites, who make up about half of the U.S. electorate. Harris also celebrated her 60th birthday on Sunday, which she kicked off with a visit to a church in Georgia. Meanwhile, Donald Trump campaigned in Pennsylvania this weekend. and on Sunday handed out French fries that he fried himself at a drive-through window of McDonald's. A photo op, but also a jab at Harris, who he claims lied about having worked at the fast food chain during her college years. During a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump made derogatory comments against his opponent, prompting a response from Harris in an interview with MSNBC on Sunday, where she said Americans deserve so much better and that Trump's behavior demeans the office. It is not uncommon for public figures to endorse presidential candidates. But Elon Musk, who has already endorsed Trump and committed at least $70 million to help the former president, has now pledged to give away $1 million each day until the November 5th election to a voter who signs his PAC petition. Legal experts are raising red flags about the giveaway because being a registered voter is one of the conditions to be eligible for the $1 million check. The main issue is due to a U.S. law that prohibits paying people to cast a vote or register to vote. For Harris, the Obamas will be making their first appearances on the campaign trail. She is scheduled to appear with the former president in Georgia on Thursday and with Michelle Obama in Michigan on Saturday. 이은진, Arirang News.
In local news, President Yoon Suk-yeol has called for greater police efforts to crack down on crimes enabled by artificial intelligence, such as deepfake fraud. The call was shared earlier on this Monday at a ceremony to celebrate Korea's 79th Police Day. Addressing the audience at the National Police Agency headquarters here in capital Seoul, the president asserted that police officers need to bolster their investigative capabilities to better reflect the rapid advances in technology to allow for a proactive campaign against crime. Exports for the first 20 days of this month, that is October, fell on year amid fewer working days. According to the Korea Customs Service on this Monday, the total value of exports amounted to $32.7 billion, down almost 3% on year. Despite this, some outbound shipments of semiconductors during the same period surged some 36% on year. Samsung Electronics is out with a thinner and lighter special edition of its foldable smartphone series. Now, earlier today, the tech giant shared the specifications of the Galaxy Fold Z Special Edition. The device weighs 3 grams less and is 1.5 millimeters thinner than the Galaxy Z Fold 6. It also boasts the widest screen for a Galaxy Z Fold series phone. The new model will hit the stores on Friday and is available in a single black shadow color. On the local baseball ground, the highly anticipated game between the Kia Tigers and the Samsung Lions takes place later on this Monday evening. Our Choi Soo-young covers the excitement and more.
On Monday evening, Game 1 of the 2024 Korean Baseball Organization League Korean Series will take place between the Kia Tigers and Samsung Lions. The Kia Tigers is the champion of the regular season this year, and the Samsung Lions beat the LG Twins in the playoffs by winning 4 games. The LG Twins was the champion of the last year's Korean Series. The Tigers will face the Lions at its home ground Kia Champions Field at 6:30 p.m. Korean time. James Nail will take the mound for the Tigers, while Won Tae-in will start for the Lions. In the 2024 regular season, the two teams faced off 16 times, with Kia winning 12 of those games. The Tigers and the Lions hold the first and second positions for the most championships in the history of the KBO League. The Samsung Lions has won 8 times behind the Kia Tigers' 11. Meanwhile, the 2024 KBO regular season made history by surpassing 10 million spectators for the first time. Thanks to this surge, ticket revenue from the postseason also set a new record. According to data from the KBO on Sunday, revenue from the 11 games amounted to over $75 million. With the upcoming Korean Series, revenue is expected to increase even further. Tickets for Monday's first Korean Series match sold out within 15 minutes of going on sale. If the Kia Tigers wins this year's series, it will be their first championship in 7 years since 2017. Choi Hyung, Arirang News.
K-pop boy band 17's latest album has secured the greatest number of sales in the shortest amount of time among all K-pop albums thus far this year. According to the band's agency on this Monday, sales of 17's 12th mini-album, Spill the Feels, have surpassed 3.1 million following its release just last week. Now, this is the only K-pop album this year to become a triple million seller during its first week of sales. Meanwhile, the music video of the title track, Love, Money, Fame, has garnered over 33 million views as of this Monday. A Korean research team has adopted artificial intelligence to greatly reduce the time needed to test water quality from the current 6 hours to just minutes. Our Cha Yoon explains.
There's a long line of people holding buckets to get water, although the source is polluted. Even polluted water can be precious because more than 2.2 billion people, 1/4 of the global population, suffer from water shortages. There has been active research on securing alternative water resources, such as desalinating seawater, reusing rainwater, and storage irrigation to solve such shortages. Technology to examine water quality based on electrochemistry is widely used since it is easy to utilize. However, detecting only the ionic concentration of water is difficult because the measuring system is based on conductivity. To solve this, researchers have developed a new technology to measure this using artificial intelligence. Pollution levels show up on a screen quickly after a sensor is placed into an agitated sample of water. The new system detects the ionic concentration of the water just using electricity and voltage data, which makes it easier and cheaper to use and is also much faster. The system reduces the detection time from 6 hours to around 200 seconds.
We tried to develop technology which can assist in electrochemical desalination by applying a model that can predict the result with only a little bit of data.
The research team expects that this new system can also be applied to trace pollutants at industrial sites.
If this new technology can be applied to data from national automatic water quality measurement networks, we believe that we can expand this research that allows people to see a water quality forecast like a weather forecast.
The research team will continue to follow up on this research to apply it to national water quality management systems. A paper outlining the research has been published in the international journal Water Research. Cha Yoon, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Mexico's Navy has arrested 23 people in its largest ever drug bust, seizing some 8.4 metric tons of illicit cargo off the country's southwestern Pacific coast. Mexico's Secretariat of the Navy stated on Friday that the bust represents the largest amount of drugs seized in a maritime operation unprecedented in history, and that the confiscated goods were valued at around $105 million. The Mexican Navy also said it has seized some 9,000 liters of fuel and 6 boats off the coast of Lázaro Cárdenas, and that the distribution of drugs in the small boats and 1 submersible vessel required complex action. The largest drug bust in Mexico's history was 23 tons of Colombian cocaine in 2007. In the U.S. state of Georgia, at least 7 people died on Saturday after part of a ferry dock collapsed, plunging at least 20 people into the water. Georgia's Department of Natural Resources, which oversees the marsh landing dock on Sapelo Island, said that the collapse occurred at around 4:30 p.m. local time as people waited for the ferry. They had gathered at Sapelo Island on Saturday to mark Culture Day, an annual festival that celebrates the island's historic black community. Peggy the Puggies, a British dog who starred alongside Hollywood's top stars in Deadpool and Wolverine, has been nominated for a Fido Award, according to organizers on Sunday. Fido, shortened from For Incredible Dogs on Screen Award, was founded by journalist Toby Rose in 2007 and is the closest thing to a canine Oscar. 5-year-old Peggy was recognized for her performance in her film debut as Dogpool alongside Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. According to Rose, the 2024 ceremony, which takes place in London in February, includes the biggest ever selection of dogs on the big screen and some standout performances. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
It was the coldest this fall, with temperatures in Seoul dropping to 9.7 degrees this morning. During the day, the autumn weather continued in cloudy weather. With chilly conditions, the rain will spread across the country overnight. From today to Wednesday, there will be up to 120 millimeters of heavy rain on Jeju Island, more than 100 on the southern coast, and 80 on the southern inland areas. Also, up to 60 millimeters of rain is expected in the center parts of the country. This rain will gradually stop from Wednesday dawn. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will start off at 16 degrees. Daegu and Gyeongju will move up to 22 during the daytime. Gwangju and Busan, 23 degrees. As the cold air moves south behind the rain clouds on Thursday, the morning temperature in Seoul is expected to drop to around 5 degrees Celsius. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up now is our daily panel session.